Hello guys, my name is Zach, and I'm going to show you how I make my fabulous spicy ramen. So, it's been on the stove for a little bit, but just get a cooker around this size, just around the same length that your small burners are. Get water and then a simple pack of ramen, which is I usually get just because it's cheap. Maruchan ramen, chicken flavored because it's my favorite. Anyways, you set this to high. Just pour water in the thing. Open up the bag. I like to keep it as a whole, but you can break it in half if you want. Anyways, while that boils, you get out the various sauces that you would like. For my ingredients, I usually get paprika, cayenne pepper, jalapeno sauce, red pepper seasoning, sriracha, which is a newer one, and habanero. So that's the stuff I usually put in it, and I recently learned of an ingredient that is actually makes the flavor better, which is Sky vodka. Just a shot of that. Put it in the ramen after all the other ingredients is added. Let me get a fork real quick. And so that will make the best ramen you've ever had. I normally would put peppers cut up in it, but those are not at my disposal at the moment. And I did have 3 other random sauces, but I don't have those either, so make with what I have at the moment. Anyways, whenever it starts to boil like this, give it about 10 minutes or so, 10-15 minutes. Start pressing down on it after it starts to boil over. And this shall speed up the process whenever you're making ramen. Makes it loosen up. As you can see, it's starting to loosen up as I tap on it. And then once it gets to a high enough temperature and wet enough, it'll start to overlap each other. Has not quite done that yet, but in a couple more seconds it will start to overlap. Some bottom parts. Oh wait, no, that's not it. Okay. Oh yeah, I also added some meat to it. Those are turkey links. But I figured I'd just give it a little bit of an extra meaty flavor. Anyways, it's starting to overlap on itself now. So after you do this, just kind of stir it up for maybe a few seconds. I usually do around 20-30 seconds. Not bad. And after it starts getting nice and boiled, set your fork down. Get the traditional chicken flavored sauce. Let me see. I'll probably have to put the phone down here for a second. Anyways, simply open it up across, drop it in, throw it away. And stir. So usually people like to boil the ramen in straight up water first and then add the seasoning to it. But that only gets the seasoning on the actual noodles, and I like the water to be absorbed as well. Anyway, just keep on stirring until you see that the water gets a little cloudy, and that's the chicken broth. That gives the flavor in the water, and by extension your noodles. Until after it gets to this certain point here, we'll go over and grab. I would recommend the actual seasoning first, because that seasoning is what also absorbs into the actual liquid and noodles as well, just like the broth does. Because the broth isn't liquid, you add it in first, the same as the red pepper seasoning. Set that back over there, just start stirring. You can put however much you want in it yourself. It's all about preference. I usually like mine really spicy. After you've seen that they're very spread apart, you will get your first ingredient, which for me is cayenne pepper. Kind of spill a little bit on the side, but it's fine. Now, once you start noticing that it's bubbling a little bit more than it is being liquidy, you take all the noodles out at once like this and drop it back in. And that will lower the water levels back down to normal, and you'll continue to stir. It's starting to get a little darker just because of the cayenne. Alright, so now that it's all mixed in there, you'll want to move on to your first sauce. So I'd like to go in pattern, so it usually, after you get the red pepper seasoning out of the way, if I can get this open, 1 second. So after you get all the red pepper seasoning and stuff like that out of the way, then you can move on to your sauces and go back and forth. So I usually put in a little bit, a few drops in there. Set that back over here, and then just start stirring a little bit more. Don't let the ingredients kind of settle at the top. You just have to keep stirring. It tends to do that if you leave it alone for a while. Okay, and after you've overlapped the noodles a little bit, go to your next sauce, which for me is paprika. Of course, you can have a sauce or seasoning of your choice. So paprika is a little bit easier to come out. You don't really have to tap the top of it. Normally I do anyways, but I have a phone in my hand, so obvious reasons I can't do that. Anyway, it's starting to bubble at the top again, so after you just kind of fold those noodles over it, take all the noodles out, wait a couple seconds, put it back in. It'll stop boiling temporarily. That'll give you a chance to mix it up. Okay, while that settles, you'll move on to your next sauce. For me, this will be habanero. The last sauce was jalapeno. This is habanero. Just a little bit in there. And it may look like there's a lot coming out, but it goes by the drops, so it's not too much. Anyway, same process, settles at the top. Just flip over the noodles a few times, spin around, stir it. And then, let's see, we move on to the last, but definitely not least ingredient for the flavoring, specifically to make it spicier, which is going to be sriracha for me. This usually, oh, it's not open. There we go. So this, I like to just put a good amount in there, just because I like spicy. And you'll tend to make a mess afterwards, so just clean it up after everything's over and done with. Alright, and after everything's mixed in here, my own little touch is to add a shot of vodka. Recommended it's nothing flavored like this, it'll ruin the taste of your ramen. Make sure it's just straight up vodka. One full, all the way to the brim shot. Quickly just dump it in there. Now I'll just start stirring a little bit more. A little bit more. It's fine. Okay, now that it's done, go ahead and turn off the burner. Find a bowl of your choosing. Just put it over here. Slowly pour it in there, make sure most of the juice is out first, and then followed by any leftovers. Stick that back on there. Move your bowl to a safe location where it will not spill. Take this off the burner. Sink, let that run. In the meantime, get some ice. You will definitely want ice for this next part. Let me just give me a second to break this. Alright. So, the important reason with ice, you will want to cool this, because this will definitely be hot, and you will scorch yourself, and whether it be intentionally or unintentionally. So I usually go with 2 blocks of ice, take all the noodles out, just layer the noodles over the pieces of ice. You'll kind of hear it crack a little bit. Perfectly normal. And after that is done, go back here, turn off the water, kind of just move it around a little bit, flip it over, and kind of just let that sit. And then just clean up any mess that you have, and after about 5 minutes of waiting with the ice pieces, just basically wait until they're completely melted. You can just move it around, check if you want And that is how you make really spicy ramen. Also, depending on the ingredients you use as well, maybe spicy is mine. If not, it's perfectly fine. All has to do with preference. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.